Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This country that we live in, the United States, when it was formed, a decision was made to separate government and religion. Faith was individual and left to the individual. And there was what they call a separation of church and state. Think about that for a minute. The state deals with the world and running the world. The religions and our individual faith systems deal with our relationship with God, which is beyond the world. And it's when the state and the religion become intertwined, intertangled, become one, that you begin to have rulers who control the religious part of their domination, and the religions then feel an obligation to support the rulers, or there ends up a difficulty between the rulers and the religious people. One of the things that's pretty well understood is that religious leaders who bow to tyrants and who do tyrants' will have crossed the path, have stepped outside of the lines of, and have gone beyond their rightful place. And by separating church and state, there was an attempt to avoid that, to avoid the religious leaders from using the tyranny of religion in order to accomplish what they want into this world. The world enjoys titles. The world enjoys status, and the world enjoys setting things up in hierarchical forms. I am more important than you. Someone is more important than me. And we all rise in our level of importance. These are all things of the world. In reality, in the realm of truth, there is a unity. And these separations don't exist. These separations between man and man don't exist. These separations between man and nations don't exist. In reality, in the world of light, nations don't exist. Differences don't exist. In God's kingdom, there is an overriding unity that brings together everything. In the world, there is form, and form is made up of the elements: earth, fire, water, ether, and air. And all of creation came about through these elemental forms. And these creations have mind and desire within them. They have Maya within them. They have arrogance within them. They have lust within them. They have all of the qualities that are within creation. Outside of creation, there is also the soul, which is within that elemental body, that elemental form. And this leads to tremendous confusion amongst people. I was recently asked a question as to how much do you need within the world of form in order to be able to move forward into reality? How much do you need within the world of form in order to become content? How much do you need of wealth in order to have enough wealth to move forward? And this confusion comes about because of the fact that the body has all of its own needs. The body has all of its own desires, and the body is constantly looking to be satisfied. The body is constantly looking to grasp and get hold of and accumulate things into this world to make sure that it is safe and it is taken care of. And so, how do you become content when this grasping is constantly going on? How do you get to the state of gratitude? And is there a level of need of worldly things in order to reach this state of gratitude? Well, it's sometimes difficult to explain that accumulating worldly possessions is not going to bring you contentment. Also, accumulating worldly possessions is not going to bring gratitude into your being. This is a separate section. And each of us, has to understand that we must separate within ourselves reality and this body world, this elemental world that we live in. Within creation, there are so many different creations. Each of them has its own needs and its own desires, and each of them is constantly trying to fulfill those needs and desires. Man is a little different, actually a lot different than the rest of creation, because man has within him a soul. This soul is a ray of the light of God. This soul is of God. So man is not only the elemental form, he is also the godly formlessness at the same time. And within us, that formlessness exists. We are in conflict between the formless part of ourselves and the part of ourselves that is form. These elements come with arrogance. They come with Maya, illusion. They come with mind. They come with desire. They come with lust. They come with male and female. They come with the sexual arts. They come with all of the elemental situations that exist throughout creation. They come with the animalistic qualities. They come with the need to win, the need to usurp power, the need to control. They come with all of these qualities, and they are incapable of seeing things differently. But we individually must begin to look at things in a new way. We have to understand that whatever we see is false, that whatever we hear is false, that the world is false, that the body is false, that all of these different things are false, and that we somehow have to separate ourselves from all of these things that are false or illusion or illusory. It's not until our belief system changes so that we believe more in what is formless than we believe in form. And this is where it becomes difficult for us, because our normal perception is through our senses. Our normal perception is through seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting. Yet, all of these encounters that we have with form are temporary in nature and are not real. If we're going to have real interaction over and above form, transcendent of form, it can't come from our mind. It can't come from our intellect. It can't come from our desire. It comes from somewhere else. So we need, in order to become true man, to give up mind and desire, to give up the egocentric self, to give up self-motive, to give up a constant need to make ourselves bigger, to make ourselves more important. And all of this comes from the mind. In Arabic, they call these the nafs amara, the lower tendencies. And the lower tendencies are that which is totally trying to support the self through self-motive. And the self becomes more important than everything else. Now, to make the switch over to reality, we have to lose this sense of self-importance. We have to be able to find gratitude. And gratitude isn't found through material wealth. Gratitude isn't found through accumulation of things in the world. Gratitude is found when love enters into our being, when love begins to interact with humanity. And then you become grateful for the ones that you see. You become grateful for the ones that you interact with. You become grateful for everything you are given, and everything that you have. But this gratitude doesn't come from the mind. It comes from the station of the soul, and the soul is contained within the heart. So when the heart becomes the place from which you communicate, when the heart becomes the seat of your interaction with humanity, that's when your interaction leaves the state of self. The state of self dies to the world, or as the Sufis say, it dies before death, and you begin to relate to everything through the qualities that belong to God. And this only happens through the heart. The heart can be merciful. The heart can be just. The heart can do all these things. The mind always has the self at the forefront of things and needs to impose the self on the world. The mind and desire want to conquer everything. They want to conquer the world. The truth is that the heart understands unity and understands that the soul is part of God and that we are truly not of this worldly kingdom, but of God's kingdom. And God's kingdom is a kingdom of light. And within the kingdom of light, everything exists, but without form. There is taste, but without fruit. There is fruit, but without trees. There are all of the things that are within the world, but without the form of the world. And we need to detach ourselves from the form of the world. And then questions like, how much form do we need? How much wealth do we need in order to be satisfied? These kind of questions no longer arise because our sustenance doesn't come from the world. Now, it's understood we need some food and we need some water in order to keep this body alive. But we are not dependent upon that for our eternal self. We're only dependent upon that for the time that this body survives. We move on from that. And in moving on from that, we begin to realize the truth. It's hard for us to come to know the truth. It's hard for us to come to know the power that drives us. But if we can look at existence from a larger sense than through our own eyes, if we can look at existence from a larger sense that is also inclusive of all of humanity, we can begin to understand the driving forces that make all of this exist. And what makes all of this exist is that power that is God. And this power is outside of the realm of this world. This power is different than arrogance and maya and mind and desire and illusion. This power is kindness and love and grace and effulgence, and is in a constant mode, in a constant state of giving to each and every thing. It never stops giving. So to become like that is to become who we truly are. To recognize that in existence is to recognize who we truly are. To recognize that is to recognize ourselves and recognize the reality of ourselves. It's said, to come to know your Lord, you must know yourself. And why is it that you must know yourself? Because the Lord is part of your existence. As a matter of fact, you are his son. At that level, there are no males and females. There's just the soul and God. And the soul is part of God. So you are part of God. And this is the state that the Sufis call man, God, God, man, where man gives up the world, gives up his attachment to the world, gives up his desire for the world, gives up his need for the world, gives up his interaction with the world, and replaces it with a desire for God, for truth, for reality, for justice, for mercy, for compassion, and man alters into a new body. This is the body that's capable of prayer, because only God can pray to God. Only God can come to know the reality that is God. So how does man understand truth? By becoming truth. How does man understand justice? By becoming justice. He understands mercy by becoming mercy. He understands love by becoming love. These concepts are beyond your mind and desire, but they are not beyond your heart. They are not beyond that part of you that is godly. So we need to shift our focus into that part of ourselves that is real. We need to shift our focus into that part of ourselves that is eternal, that part of ourselves that is everlasting, that part of ourselves that is connected to truth. And then doors open up for us. And the petty squabblings in this world become irrelevant. The petty difficulties become irrelevant. The things that trouble our mind and make it impossible for us to find peace become irrelevant, because we've transcended this worldly plane. We've gone beyond the interaction of form, and form no longer affects us. Now, in this world, when the rain falls, it falls for everyone. The rain falls for the crops that are being planted, but at the same time that the rain gives nourishment to the crops, it also gives nourishment to the weeds. It gives equally towards everything and everybody. It gives like God gives. It is a benefit to all. God's love is within everyone and everything. It is a benefit to all. And if there is amongst men a wise man, he becomes a benefit to all. He becomes like the rain. He gives towards everybody who comes into his presence, whether they be evil, whether they be good, whether they have pure intentions, or whether they have ill intentions. The interaction with that being who comes as a mercy into this world is a benefit to all. When the rain comes, it creates puddles, and the puddles may dry out. However, there are areas which are like lakes, which are attached to inner streams, which don't dry out, which are a constant source of water and maintain a constant source of water. It's like that with the ones who are sent by Allah as a mercy into this world. The Ketubs have this direct connection to God, and that's why their words are never the same. They are constantly being fed direction through Allah. They are constantly being fed inspiration through Allah. It is that inner spring that feeds them, and they never dry out. To meet such a person is a great mercy in this world. To meet such a person is a great blessing in this world. To meet such a person is a rare thing. And if it happens, we have to take advantage of it. What has happened in religion is religions have become institutionalized, and the institution has become more important than the original reason of the religion. The original reason for the prophets and the ketubs is to establish a connection between man and God. When the religions become institutionalized, the institution becomes more important than that original reasoning. It becomes worldly. It becomes an institute to develop itself and make itself bigger. It becomes very similar to what an egocentric man does. Everything will turn into what an egocentric man is unless there is a direct connection to truth. So in order for man to change from egocentric self to transcendent self, one has to have interaction with transcendence. One has to be explained what transcendence is. One needs to understand the benefit of transcendence. One needs to begin to understand that there is wealth and there is treasure beyond that which is elemental. And this wealth and treasure that is beyond elemental is greater than any elemental wealth or treasure that we can encounter. This wealth is an everlasting wealth. This wealth is the revival of our soul to the point where we are knowledgeable of it. And it interacts with its Father, God, and becomes truth. And then we become everlasting. Our alternative is to become attached to all of that which is elemental, and then the elements become the reason for our existence. And when our existence ends, as it has to end, we get pulled into by the powers and the forces that are elemental back to the earth, and this is the cause of rebirth. To avoid rebirth, we have to detach from that which causes rebirth. And what is it that causes rebirth? It's our love for the earth, our love for form, our love for the fantasies that we are involved with form, that we believe will give us some sort of reward, some sort of pleasure. This is the big lie. You may wonder, why do people who are very, very wealthy continue to try and become more and more wealthy? Well, for one thing, they don't find peace, and they don't understand why they don't find peace. Well, Satan, who is the proponent of form, whispers to them, the reason you don't find peace is you don't have enough. You don't have enough of form. You have to continue to get more. So if you're looking for money, you'll never have enough money. And Satan will tell you that the solution to finding peace is more money. If you're involved in fame, he'll tell you the solution to finding peace is more fame. If you're a general or a conqueror or someone who rules a nation, he'll tell you that through conquering more and more and more, you will find peace. And these are all lies. Peace cannot be found within the form of the world. And until we grasp that, then we are doomed to be subject to form. And what happens when you're subject to form? Rebirth. You come back again and again and again because you haven't transcended form. We need to escape this world of eat and be eaten. We need to escape this world of win and lose. We need to go to that place where there is no praise and blame, where there are just the qualities of transcendence, where there are just the qualities of love and kindness and mercy and compassion and grace. This is a different life. This is a different attitude. This is a different way of being. And once we enter into that way of being, then we will find contentment in our life. What's interesting is that you find contentment by giving things away. As you give the world away, contentment will enter your heart. But as you hold on to the world, you can't get contentment. So contentment means you have an open hand. Contentment means that you don't hold on to things as they come your way. When my Sheikh, Muhammad Rahim Baal Muhaiyaddeen, was alive, people would give him things. And as it went into his hand, it went out of his hand. He didn't hold on to the world. He gave it away. Can we do that? Or do we have a fear that if we give the world away, we are somehow going to become less? We are somehow going to be deprived. We are somehow going to need what we gave away. The first economists wrote books about the scarcity of things and how life in this world is a fight to get scarce goods for yourself as opposed to others. Life is not about fighting for what's in the world. Life is about understanding how to give up what's in the world, how to create within us a light body that is very limited in its needs of what's in the world, that is detached from all of the worldly goods and all of the worldly meanderings and all of the worldly things that we think we need. Once we begin to understand that these things aren't needed in order to find peace, that these things aren't needed in order to find contentment, that's when we become free. That's when we are released from our chains. And what are these chains? Our attachments to the form. Our attachments to the form are what keep us entrapped. Our attachment to titles, our attachment to wealth, our attachment to fame, our attachment to anger, our attachment to lust. All of these things keep us trapped within the world and don't let us escape. So we're constantly unhappy because we don't have everything that we think we need. And once we learn we don't need it, and once we truly believe we don't need it, that's when true contentment can come into each of us. May Allah grant us the understanding of contentment. May He grant us the understanding of peace. May he free us from the chains of form and the chains of our attachment, so that we can enter into the realm of light, the realm of freedom, the realm of true gratitude, true understanding of peace, and a true involvement with all of God's qualities. May this occur for each and every one of us. Ameen. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.